Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
U.S. trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding that. It's over.
Coming up, so KP, don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, not exactly the way I envisioned the season to start. Not sure about you. Maybe I should have expected that. Welcome to the podcast. If you are a Knicks fan, welcome back. First episode of the 2024-25 regular season. If you're not a Knicks fan and you're a Yankees fan and you clicked on this episode, well, stick around. Maybe you'll learn a little Knicks. That was a rough one. Not a good way. Obviously, not a good way to start the season. It was absolutely brutal. I hate when the Knicks play on national TV. I hate when they play on TNT, especially because it just feels like they have to win. Otherwise, those four clowns are gonna just make it seem like the Knicks just won 0-82 in a full season. It was brutal. I hate Boston with a burning passion. I hate everything about Boston. I hate their sports fans. That city is the devil. So to see them win at home, it sucked. I will say I got a good chuckle at the Yankees suck chance. That one was fun. That was live from Cancun. So it just made me feel good. It's like the Yankees are so back. You got that going on in late October. We're back. But no, this was a bad loss for the Knicks, man. I hate to lose like that to start off the season. Obviously you can't overreact, but you also don't want to underreact and just throw it away completely. And to be honest, it's a new Knicks team. It's a completely different look, and so this is going to take a minute. I'm not expecting the Knicks to get out and start on fire here. I'm not. I think this is a team that might, maybe for the first month or so, for the first 30 games, which is 2 months, right, in basketball, like they're going to be searching for their identity for a bit, is what I'm trying to say. I think they'll be fine enough to tread water for a little bit, but I think this team is going to they have a lot of new pieces that need to gel. They have to try to find out what they are, because last year they knew what they were. They were a tough, gritty defensive team. They crashed the offensive boards. They played 48 minutes of defense, protected the basket, rebounded. That was their identity. This year's team is going to be a little more, in my opinion, offensive oriented, which I think is good. It helps modernize their offense a little bit with the moves they made. But it was not a good defensive showing for them, and you're hoping that guys eventually find that chemistry. Because this is a team that's supposed to match up with Boston. That was the entire goal of That's been the entire goal of Leon Rose the past 2 years. all the acquisitions he made in just these past 2 years have been trying to put together a team that can defeat the Boston Celtics. And last night, it didn't look like the Knicks belonged on the same floor. So that's a little concerning to me. Boston came out and they wanted to make a statement, obviously. They're doing their whole, it's us against the world thing. That's cute. Listen, they won the championship. You're not really underdogs. You're the defending champions. But they came out there and they showed all their hands. Like, you'll see sometimes NBA coaches will save. They don't want to play their entire hand. They'll save some for the postseason. They don't want to do certain. The Celtics, man, this is what we have. We don't think you can stop it. And credit to them, because the Knicks couldn't stop Missoula's Celtics last night. I mean, right out the gate. It was competitive for the first 4.5 minutes. Not even. It was a 1-point game at the 8-minute and change mark. But then Boston goes on this 8-0 run, and the Knicks never really came close from there. It's 43-24 after one quarter. Second quarter, Deuce McBride gets hot. Brunson comes back in later. He knocks down a few baskets. But by then, the Knicks are down 20 points already. And the second half was pretty much all garbage time. Just three-pointer after three-pointer, open threes. Time and time and time again, the Celtics knocked down 29 three-pointers. Tying a franchise record. They missed their last 13 trying to get the record. But they win the game 132-109 at the fake Garden last night. This is a team that's going to be tough to beat. So you're hoping that the Knicks, take some time this year and they finally click at some point in the early season here. Because they made a lot of high-risk moves last couple years. And they're banking that it's going to be a high-ceiling team. But Boston is tough. And Boston has, if there's one word to describe them, I think versatility would be the best way to put it. It's how versatile they are. That's how they won last year. And honestly, if they repeat, I wouldn't be shocked because they're just that versatile. They've got 5 starters who can shoot, screen, and switch. They have a bunch of guards and a bunch of wings who can operate as spacers, initiators, rollers, and can guard 1 to 5. Their spacing is incredible. They legitimately are always 5 out. Every time they're on the floor, always 5 out because they've got just a rotation full of guys who can not just shoot threes, of guys who can drill threes. And so this has been a problem for the Knicks ever since the beginning of last year. They had issues defending this Boston team. Right? They have had issues with this Celtics team. Boston has 5 guys who not just shoot, but again, drill 3-point looks. It is the best offense I've seen. Maybe even topping Golden State in their prime. It's an attack that it's like, it's not a game that makes me worry about the Knicks this regular season. I think they're going to win games. I think they'll put up good defensive numbers, offensive numbers. But again, it's a game that makes me worry about the Knicks winning a championship because most likely the Knicks are going to have to get by this offense, this team, in order to win a championship. Let me take a sip. It's just, how do you stop that 5-out attack? You need perfect communication, and you need, a switchable defense. I'm talking 1 to 9. Like every player in your rotation needs to be switchable. And the Knicks were miscommunicating last night defensively. And they don't have switchable personnel 1 to 9 like honestly Boston does. You know, the 3 wing defenders for the Knicks last night were all pretty bad. And then you add in your 2 weakest defenders in Brunson and Towns. It was a mess. So, you know, the Knicks they tried everything. They tried every coverage that they could. They tried, you know, it's really pick your poison. Try to choose the coverage with the least amount of deficiencies. And so, you know, for most of the night, Tibbs went to a drop coverage. That's his default. The problem with drop coverage against the Celtics is you are completely toast if your point of attack defender is not getting over the top. And last night, the Knicks' point of attack defenders were not getting over the top. Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, all of them, a very below average job defending at the point of attack. Navigating screens, fighting over rear contests, recovering back into the play. It was ugly. I mean, the first 3-point attempt of the night, Mikal Bridges gets screened off on the right elbow. So it was you know, usually when the Knicks give up a ton of points, drop coverage gets a ton of the blame, and they did a really poor job in drop last night. You know, whether it was Towns not moving, Jericho, you add that, and you add in the bad defense at the point of attack at the top of the set there. Like, they just had trouble seeing ball and man, and it led to poor rotations. But, like, you can try to go to different coverages, and they did. There were points in the game where they went to different coverages. Like, you can ask, you know, why didn't they switch it? Well, because 2 of their 5 starters are very uncomfortable in switch. You know, if they're, you know, Brunson and Cat, you switch them onto good offensive weapons, that's a total mismatch. They're terrible defenders. You can try to hedge it, bring Cat to the level, because, you know, that might be a different coverage. But, like, you do that, and Boston's just going to force your defense into rotation on the back line because they've got incredibly quick ball movement. You saw a few possessions where the Knicks, they blitzed the action, but they left the roller without a tag or a weak side rotation, or Boston would just move the ball really well to beat them in rotation, and they'd exploit the defense for a corner 3. Like, anything they tried, hedging, switching, dropping, playing it straight up, it didn't work because this is such a talented roster, Boston. It wasn't going to work. Guys who haven't gelled together yet, we're never beating that team. Now, maybe the next time these 2 teams face off, I'm not sure when that is, I got to look, but hopefully it's enough time from now to then to where this team's finally got a little bit of chemistry, right? And maybe you see some adjustments from Tom Thibodeau's end. Maybe it's OG Anunoby on Tatum and Mikal Bridges is on Brown. You know, I think that's what a lot of people wanted to see last night. People were confused as to why they didn't swap that matchup. But again, if you put Mikal on Brown, Brown's a big body for Mikal Bridges to handle. And you have OG on Tatum. I think the fact that they didn't do that, I think the Knicks didn't want to put OG on Tatum is because if you do that, you don't have OG in help. Because if you allow the drop and you allow the defender to go over, you're going to need someone in help. You know, I do get why that was a trend. You know, it was on Twitter after people were asking because it looked bad. Like the issue last night was, you know, the rotations off the help were very poor. But they just played messy defense, you know, incorrect and untimely rotations. You know, rotating following the pass versus rotating ahead of the pass. Incorrect and untimely switches. There was a lot of switching last night with guys who were just not ready to switch or they just didn't know when to switch. And it led to wide open looks from 3. Your two weakest defenders were hunted off switches in Towns and Brunson. Second quarter there, Brunson was getting hunted on those Tatum ball screens. And then your three wing stoppers weren't effective up top. So yeah, like I would say, looking back, playing Monday morning quarterback, like maybe the Knicks should have played everything straight up and fight over the top, because I don't know. Maybe you switch it. Maybe you switch it because at least you slow down the Boston offense, right? You slow them down and you force them inside the arc, and now you have a chance to create a turnover off a drive. But again, if Tatum drives on the switch, he's 1,000% getting you the basket. So I just don't think they have. Again, it's a combination of communication and personnel. And that's going to take chemistry. You're going to have to nail that down. And then maybe you'll figure this out. I don't think Mikal, Hart, and Anunoby are going to be this bad defensively all year. I think that will be figured out. They'll be able to do enough. Will they be able to do enough to mitigate the weaknesses that are Brunson and Towns, on those pick and rolls? We'll see. Mikal Bridges last night offensively, I think that's what scared most people. Because you watched him in the preseason. Clearly changed his mechanics on the shot. Had a very big hitch in it. He was bricking shots the entire preseason. Comes into the first half of last night. Couldn't find what's the saying? Couldn't find the ocean with a beach ball, some shit. It was ugly. And Reggie Miller was talking about it. You could see, like, why would this kid change his shot? He's known for his shooting. But I think that second half maybe calmed some nerves a little bit. He found a rhythm. He ends up scoring 16 points. I think it was on 7 of 13 shooting. But it's going to be confidence. It's going to be mental. He's just going to have to keep shooting. I don't know, man. I have to see more. It's something you're just going to have to keep your eye on in terms of Mikal Bridges. Because that thing looks ugly. It looks ugly. I don't know. It's like RJ Barrett bad. I hate to say that. I had no idea he changed his shot until somebody texted me. One of my buddies, you watching Mikal Bridges right now? I'm like, no, I haven't really seen much of the Knicks preseason. Been busy watching and covering the Yankees. But, yeah, I saw it last night, and it's ugly looking, man. And I hope that he eventually becomes comfortable with it. And the second half of last night was him kind of gaining confidence back. So we'll see. We have Indiana on Friday. That's not a great defense, so maybe that can help him. We'll find out. But I'm a little concerned there. I'm not gonna lie. Offensively, overall, I thought the Knicks. I think early on they did a great job of exploiting the mismatch off of Hart. Boston did as everybody expected them to do. They put their big on Hart. Horford was on him at the start of the game, and they put the small on Cat Holiday. So, what the Knicks would do was they go to a pick and roll to get the switch. They'd use Hart to screen in the action. And they did a nice job of taking it. That's what you're supposed to do. I need them to take more threes, versus a team like Boston who's going to launch those things. And they just need to work on creating advantages. That's the name of the game. That's how Boston thrives. Create advantages in the half court. Boston was clearly staying home on the drive versus collapsing because they're willing to give up 2 points, which is why the Knicks shot so well from the floor and at the rim. But yeah, they were conceding to the Knicks, creating advantages for Josh Hart because why wouldn't you live with that, right? It allowed them to stay home on Brunson, to stay home on Towns, to stay home on Anunoby. But I didn't think, the spacing I thought looked good, except for those lineups where you had Hart and Jericho. Please don't go back to that. But overall, the spacing looked relatively good. It definitely improved with Cat out there. But it means nothing. Like, spacing is only as good as what you make of it, because the Knicks weren't creating advantages. You rarely saw them draw two to the ball. That's where ball movement comes in. You force the defense into rotation. That's how Boston's offense is so elite. They create advantages by putting you into rotation. Force them to hedge. Hit the open man off the hedge. I think the Knicks' overall shooting numbers weren't great because they just, they made, and some of the makes that they had were on tough looks. Tough 3-point makes by Deuce, a couple in the mid-range from him and Brunson, but I'm going to be looking at how they're going to get there off. A lot of Brunson's 3-pointers last year came from catch and shoot looks and pull-up jumpers on drop coverage coming off pick and roll. But you didn't have Julius there last night to create catch and shoot looks for Brunson. A lot of Brunson's threes last year were was him off the ball, cutting in the corner, and Randall hitting him up. You're not going to have that anymore. And Boston wasn't really giving him a ton of opportunities to pull up versus drop coverage on those Brunson pick and rolls. So, he was 1 for 2 from 3. A lot of Karl Anthony Towns 3-point looks last year came from Rudy Gobert screening. The Knicks don't have Gobert. They have good screeners, but they don't have screeners that are on Gobert's level. So, Boston was able to take away the pick and pop game. They were able to take away the Knicks 3-point game. And, guys like Brunson, just 2 3-point attempts. Guys like Towns, just 2 3-point attempts. So, overall, the offense wasn't terrible. Again, some good spacing. I liked what I saw from Brunson. I loved what I saw from Deuce. Mikal in the second half, maybe encouraging. I liked the OG Towns second unit lineups. And I thought Josh Hart did a good job screening, and I thought his playmaking off the short pick and roll was pretty good, which is, again, what he has to do when they throw big on him. But the Knicks are going to have to find a way to create more advantages going forward. So whether it's more creativity in the half court, Tibbs opening up the playbook. I did like, there was a nice slob set, I think, to get Cat on the post in the second quarter. Maybe it was. It eventually ended up being a turnover because Boston played it well. They snuck out in transition, but I like the idea of getting Cat on the post in an out-of-bounds play. I think Deuce McBride's going to play a very key role in offense this year. As that backup point guard. We'll see how much actual point guard he'll play, but he's always been more of a wing type player, despite not having the body type. But yeah, creating advantages, that's the name of the game, and the Knicks didn't really do a great job there offensively. So how are they going to create their buckets? Again, that's also a chemistry thing. But I did like what I saw from Deuce, so we'll hand him the game ball from the Knicks side. I hate doing these in losses, but I like to add him up at the end of the season, so we give him out every game. So Deuce McBride off the bench, I thought was great.
Bing bang.
There he is, Deuce McBride last night, 22 points, 2 assists, 1 turnover. He shot 80% from the floor, 80%, 4 out of 5 from 3, and 2 out of 3 at the free throw line, 67% across 26 minutes. He's going to be a key. His development has been huge. From his very first game to what you saw last time, I mean, it's been such a big jump. He has learned so much, and he's gotten so much more confident and comfortable with shooting. You never thought it'd end up being what it is. And this is a guy who's now, got a new contract with this team, and he's the guy who could honestly be in the running for Sixth Man of the Year. Maybe he ends up starting, so maybe he might not get that because you do want that 5-out look. So maybe Tibbs, I don't know, because he loves his size, he loves the rebounding. I don't know if he's going to go with that, but, you know, he looks good with the starting unit. But Deuce McBride gets the first Bing Bong game ball from off the bench. Let's go to the starting unit. Got to hand this one to Jalen Brunson, the best of the starting five. 22 points, 2 assists, 4 turnovers. So you got to improve that ratio. But he shot the ball well, 9 out of 14. That's 64%. He was 1 out of 2 from 3, and he made all his free throws. Yeah, not worried about Brunson. He's going to do his thing. And again, a lot more space for him to create baskets last night, I thought. So that was a good sign. Yeah, man, I think that's it. I don't know if, I think we can cut this one short. It's a blowout. It was a blowout, so there's not a whole lot to dissect. It's only one game. So as we get deeper into the season, we will have more in-depth episodes. But episode 729, the Knicks lose 132-109. So that's really all my input on this. So what we're going to do is head to break, and when we get back in about 2 minutes, we'll wrap this up with our trivia question. And that'll be that. Stay with us here on episode 729 of BD4. We'll be right back.
Hey there, thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much. You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right. Welcome back to the show. Episode 729 of the podcast. Appreciate you all tuning into BD4. Let's wrap this episode of BD4 up with our trivia. Okay. Our trivia question of the day for this episode of BD4. This was the first time Mitchell Robinson was not in the Knicks opening tip lineup since when? What year? This was the first time Mitchell Robinson was not in the Knicks opening tip lineup since when? All right. That's it. So let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. I'll give you a shout out in the next episode if you get the answer correct, folks. The Knicks dropped this one 132-109 in Boston at the fake Garden. Hopefully this team bounces back quickly. But they do have another high-octane offense coming up. I mean, if Boston's the number one offense in the league, Indiana's the number two. They are legitimate. They gave the Knicks issues in the postseason last year, as we remember. Now, the Knicks were a walking hospital unit, or limping hospital unit at that time. But it's an offense that is fast-paced and that is going to make you think quick, much like this Boston offense. But they're different in many ways as well. Hopefully a fully healthy or relatively healthy Knicks team can figure this out, and I believe this game is at the Garden, so that should be a good thing. I think the key is to just get off to a hot start and forget that first game ever happened. And let's go Knicks, man. I'm excited the season's back. I'm very excited. We've been spending a lot of time on the Yankees, so we didn't get to a ton of Knicks in the offseason. So, man, it hasn't hit me yet that basketball's back, that New York Knicks basketball's back. And I'm expecting this team to be a good team this year, man. I think they'll be more of a playoff team than a regular season team. I think you might see this team finish with 45, 46 wins, the 6 seed, the 5 seed. But I think this is a team that's really going to mesh in the postseason. I think it's going to be on Tibbs to really save and conserve and not, maybe learn from some of his mistakes last year. Hopefully learn from some of his mistakes last year. Can't say I'm confident he'll do that. And put a little bit more focus on preserving guys for the postseason. I think that's my biggest ask. So we'll see what happens. Folks, I appreciate you all tuning in. The Knicks do drop the first game, but let's bounce back and beat this shitty Hick team for game 2. Later, everybody. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to subscribe, comment, download these episodes, and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks!